colleagues across town, across the globe. Here it is, the 22nd of October in the year of our Lord 2020, and this is Public Affairs, Public Access. I'm your host, Paul Colby. As usual, I am here to bring you the lowdown and the rundown on the runaround and everything else that's going on in national politics as we creep up on the election in November. I have with me tonight, as per usual in recent months, three of the most incredible investigators that have ever been part of my team. And let me answer a question that's come across my desk lately. Are these the only investigators you have? Well, no. These are the investigators I have that are telegenic. And that doesn't mean they got infected. It means they like being on TV. Their identities, as you've probably noticed, change from week to week because it's part of their job. They have to be absolutely hard to figure out, and nobody they work for recognizes them. Let me introduce each of them and tell you a little about them. My friend, Mr. Bill Board. He's been on the show a number of times. Bill is the celebrated author of several very important books. Marriage as Slavery, that was a big hit in the 1960s. Mismanaging Your Money, which was a big hit in the 70s. And Utah's Mighty Rivers, which I never understood. He doesn't actually name any of Utah's mighty rivers. But anyway, in recent years, he's been a spokesman for the Barrett Center on Textual Auto Repair, which I think is some sort of constitutional way of reading that diagnostic machine that comes with your current automobiles. Isn't that right, Bill?
That's correct, although it's considerably more sophisticated than that, but I'm not at liberty to divulge any of the
I know. I just wanted them to know why they should respect you. But one thing I've been meaning to ask you for years, because I've known you for years, including back when you were a rock star. And there was a time when you and your girlfriend, Yoko Loco, who at the time was mismanaging your money. You were in your birthday suits.
Shoot, we went to a rather scandalous party, and during the course of the party, our clothes were actually stolen. So we had no choice but to appear because we didn't want to be late for the photographic shoot. So that's the little known story behind that photo.
Well, that little known story is going to disappoint some people, I think, but I'm glad you leveled with us, Bill, because you always do. Another person who's always leveled with me, but sometimes in a roundabout way, is Anaconda. And Anna is right now the director of the New Orleans Sainthood Sorority and a research associate at the Insect Diet Study Group at Portable Exhaust University. She is also a former host of the very popular TV show, Would You Like Me to Drop a Car on Your Head? Anna, I'm sure there are plenty of stories you could tell about what happened on script and off script when you were producing and hosting that TV show.
Oh, yes, boss. It was based on a very popular game show in Germany. And, people, it's a very German concept, really, having a car dropped on your head. It did not take off so much in the United States until somewhere between November 2016 and January 2017. All of a sudden, ever since then, people have just been lining up to be on the show. I have no idea what happened, but...
And another thing, just a curiosity on my part, you're the director of the Sainthood Sorority, but you've never applied for sainthood yourself.
Yeah, boss. Too many sins. Just a few
Oh,
minutes.
oh, that makes sense. Now I understand. Another person I try to understand, but sometimes it's difficult. My colleague Bud Isatva, he is a fact checker for the Circular Reasoning Department of the National Aeronautical Humor Library. That's in Lubbock, Texas. He used to be the brine shrimp quality control manager at Colossal Seafood, and he is a regular guest on the News Without Pity podcast that I know a lot of you listen to. Bud, I was listening to one of those podcasts recently, and it seemed to me like you were actually expressing pity for one of those spokesmen for Colossal Seafood when he was talking about how tough it is to get an electric eel into packages for, mass consumption.
Yes, well, you have to understand that when we speak of podcast, we are talking about massive whales that we have to put equipment to listen to them. So we are having problems underwater where just like you can't water plant in your house, otherwise you ruin microphone. When you are underwater trying to give the spokesperson, the spokes whale an opportunity, this becomes problem and they take it out on the eels.
Okay. I think I followed that, just like I've followed your career for all these years, especially since you started taking a salary working for me. I have to tell you, we expected to have another guest with us tonight. Jeffrey Toobin was going to be here, but for some reason or another, he had to pull out early. I think it has to do with his new business venture, YouTube. Some of you have probably checked out the website. You've seen the logo, I'm sure, for YouTube. We looked at it this afternoon and we couldn't find anything there. So it was kind of an anticlimax, I guess. But we'll try to get him back. Yeah.
Did you find, boss? When he pulled out early, did you find that to be frustrating?
Not for me personally, but I think for millions of fans out there, probably it was.
A case of roundtable interruptus can be extremely frustrating, I've been told.
Well, yeah, I've read it, but I've read the Latin translations. I'm sure you have a better grasp on the real issues. Were you saying something there, Anna?
Yes, I was told by my sources that he is reportedly doing this to make some money for upcoming lawsuits from anyone who had to endure that mental image, and I imagine that's going to require millions upon millions.
Okay, makes perfect sense to me. With that behind us now, and with my staff here aboard, I want to tell you where we're going tonight. You know, it is an election year, so first we want to hit that big issue, and we'll do it in some steps. First, we'll talk about the presidential debates so far and what's coming up tonight. Then we'll talk about the Trump campaign and what those people seem to be up to. Then we'll talk about Biden's campaign and what he seems to be up to. And then we'll talk about voting, because not only are some of you going to vote, lots of you already have voted, and you're wondering if they're going to count your vote or various other issues attached to that. And if we have time, we'll talk about some of the issues that are surrounding this election year. For example, the need for a stimulus package, the nomination of another Supreme Court justice, and the Pope's recent statement supporting same-sex unions. So we've got a lot to talk about here tonight. Let's dig in first with those presidential debates. Some of you watched the first one, and it was pretty chaotic. what I like to look at when we do this retrospectively is to check out some of the focus groups. My people were involved with a couple of the groups. We have here a slide from the first one. And what I noticed here, there were a lot of questions about, do you need to have manners to be a presidential candidate? And can you turn down the volume on this guy and so forth? I think we know who they were talking about, but Bud, I think you had some connection with that first focus group, didn't you?
In Russia, we don't have focus groups. We have government which maintain our focus.
Oh, okay. The second focus group had a lot more questions. And I know we were covering this. One of the things that the people there asked is, what is his God's name? And I think they were referring to Mr. Trump. They couldn't figure out. Well, they wanted to know what his God's name was. Did anybody dig down into that issue? And what?
I believe it's my sources tell me that his God is actually Asides, and digging further down there, I thought it was appropriate because Asides is actually Latin for sloth. So I find it very fitting that Asides is the God that Trump has chosen.
Well, I noticed they also asked some interesting questions. Can you vote in more than one state? I guess that's because in some states your vote is worth more. Is that what they're trying to get at?
Yes, I believe they seem to be under the impression that their vote can be bought by the highest bidder, which apparently that these days that in fact is true. So
I think we're going. I think we're going to cover that when we get to voting, because I think this year people have heard about buying and selling votes, and so they are. In any case, those focus groups, that pretty much explains what the chaotic scene was like the first time around. The second debate actually got canceled. And you ended up having Trump doing a town hall and Biden doing a town hall. And so they were about 1,200 miles apart. But I think from what I've heard, you could hear Trump 1,200 miles away. So that brings us where we are now. And by the way, he was tested to see if he had athlete's foot. Which I found unusual because no one was really concerned about athletes. I mean, I know a lot of us personally are concerned about it, but not as far as our leadership is involved. What happened between the beginning of those debates and now is that we had the outbreak of super shredder events. This has to do with the fact that a lot of the president's files, which have been the subject of legal action in various states, lots of those files are now given the green light to be produced. And so there is a lot of shredding going on. For example, you probably saw the headline recently, what made Deutsche blink? Because the Deutsche Bank is going through their files, figuring out what they can shred before the big hand of government and governments comes down on them. And then we have, in addition to that, Trump's people going. Yes.
But sorry, before you go on, I think you speak of big hand of government. I want to interject that in Russia, we don't have IRS. We have you owe me. So that means neighbor come to your door, then grandfather wrestled your dog. If grandmother hit dog with bowl of soup, if he yelled, you owe 20 rubles to man's sister.
I think that explains one of the things that people are trying to shred, which is the story around that $750 check to the IRS that bounced. And I understand, while we're on the subject of money and the investigations and the files they're shredding, apparently lots of money was paid for me. This is by students at Trump University. Money was paid for meetings with the Trump University mascot. Anybody know what that scandal was about?
Well, was he actually, I believe he violated a trademark that he attempted to use the Swedish bikini team as Trump University mascot. So he got into quite a bit of copyright infringement lawsuits, which of course is nothing unusual for the Trump legal team, but that did require an extensive review of Trump University's records.
I see. And there was something about the Trump Zanzibar. There, a lot of those files are being shredded. What I understand from one of the investigators who is not with us tonight is that the people who made reservations at the Trump Zanzibar found out that it wasn't actually a hotel, it was just a parking lot. Anyway, all of the Trump files are being ransacked right now. And I think you've seen the picture there. It's not clear who's ransacking them, but it's not somebody friendly, right? The actual Biden is under a big mound of dirt right now. The one who's being
Joe is his son. Let's see if we can take a story that's going around right now on Hunter Biden. You have an article in the poster, and that saying there is absolute proof for Satan and George Soros and the Doobie Sisters. I have all of their records, by the way.
Now, what's curious, if you look at this picture, you will see the dumpster behind some sort of gated enclosure. But we have seen another picture. It was in the Up Against the Wall Street Journal lately, and it shows the unretouched picture of that dumpster where allegedly the laptop of Hunter Biden was found. You'll notice that there's an X there marking some spot along with an arrow. And what we think that means, the plot is thickening here if you're following me. Let's look at a picture of that laptop. They found something that has some sort of mysterious writing on it. And in this New York Poster Toaster article, they're claiming that that mysterious writing says Hunter Biden's laptop. Now, here is what my investigators have put together for me, and they can add anything to the story that I've forgotten. It seems like somebody, a Rusky, and excuse me, but if I use that terminology.
Please be discreet and distinct.
And we'll show you the email because Bill Board found this for me, and he said I could put it on the screen. So do you see what I'm saying, boys and girls, all of you out there? It looks like you're being fed another story, and it wouldn't be the first time this has happened.
Yeah, but if I might, and maybe Bud can speak to this, but the Trump himself was actually very much in favor of Russian misinformation, but not for the reasons that we've been led to believe. He actually thought Russian misinformation was a contestant in his Miss Universe pageant.
Right. I was gonna bring that up, but I thought better of it. But as someone who has talked about the institution of marriage, you would know about these unmarried Russian agents, and that reminds me, it's not always agents. Sometimes it's just allies of Trump who try to pull this. We have, for example, you have heard, I'm sure you've heard about the email that was allegedly sent to voters in various states from the Proud Boys. Well, it turns out it's not the Proud Boys. Anna got me a copy of that email because somebody accidentally sent it to her. And it's actually from the Proud Boys. And the Proud Boys, according to FBI information, are a bunch of drunken hackers who have been spoofing a lot of people for the years. But notice what it says here in the text that was sent to Brenda. I don't know her real last name, but she calls herself the Booty Queen. And here it says that you need to vote for the big orange goon on election day, and you need to change your party affiliation. And then they say that they know things about her. For example, they know her dog's name, they know what she had for lunch, and what you really think of someone named Professor Two. Now, people are being told that this means some foreign government is trying to or already has gained access to voter databases, and they are threatening people with things they find in the database. But follow me on this, folks, and my assistants here, they know this to be true from their past experiences, and don't go into all of them, Bill. Some are too salacious. They know that Brenda, whose Facebook page we looked at, has already publicly revealed her dog's name and many times revealed what she had for lunch, and has said some pretty nasty things about Professor Two. So I'm telling you, folks, you're not looking at an enemy that is necessarily, what did you call it, their big government, Bud?
Yes, it's a good harvesting opportunity. That's what we say when we get up in the morning. When our handler comes in, big harvest is what we look at Facebook.
Okay. Well, as you know, regardless of who's working for Trump and whose files people are trying to hide and what Hunter Biden, who's not running for anything, might have done, Republicans themselves are kind of worried about what direction Trump is taking the party, because that changes pretty much from day to day. You can see the signs. Actually, we've got pictures of some of the signs, but the idea is that the signs are pretty hard to read, especially for the people who are trying to work for Trump. One last comment. I know one thing the Trump campaign is trying to do before their part of history is included in the history books, you get my meaning, is they're trying to cash in on these last few days where they can actually sell things. Trump merchandise is just jumping off the shelves. I've got a picture of the website here. My producer will show you. Some of the things they are trying to clear out include the T-shirts. You know, it's the stupid economy, and then they have the emolument clause. I never realized that emolument clause are something that is actually found on fauna. I don't know if any flora have it, but anyway, it's on fauna. And then they're selling that that pretty famous Trumpin', how does that go again? Trumpin' Jack flash, gas, because people are throwing fire on the, putting out fires with gasoline, I guess is how you'd say it. That's what I was looking at on the site. But Anna, I think you told me you actually bought something yesterday.
Yes, it's actually a little, there are several pages that are hard to find on the site. They do sell Sippy Cups, so that you do not get the water on your necktie or your blouse, your helmet line. And these are really flying off the shelves, I understand. Mostly with the toddler demographic and parents of young children, but really they're really usable for anyone.
That's interesting. You know, when I went to the site, I was looking for the dog whistles, and they apparently are sold out of dog whistles because it's not even listed on the site. But I did see Dr. Blatter's Moral Compass, and I had to get one, and I brought it came the other day. It was delivered from Amazon, and it fortunately it wasn't even stolen from the porch. I think some people are afraid of these things. That you wouldn't believe what the packaging looked like, but you can see the picture of it right there. I got it out of the box, and I'm still not sure how to use the darn thing.
I think, boss, it just goes to show you that in America, everything is to be sold. In Russia, everyone is to be bought.
You don't have any moral compass over there, do you?
Navigation problems come, they come, they go. We make do. We make do twice a day.
In the morning and the evening?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes third time is bonus.
Yeah, we have do here too. And sometimes we have to do.
Is it true, boss, that Amazon is, when they're trying to ship these moral compasses to the Washington, D.C. area, they're impounded by the federal authorities?
I don't know if they're impounded, but they weigh about 19 pounds.
Yeah.
You can't make do when you're impounded. It's not good. You must eat lots of prunes. Borscht.
Well, okay. My family always used to use prunes as an antidote, if you want to call it an antidote. Anyway, I guess we're done with the Trumps. But what about Joe Biden on the other side? Let's talk about him and his campaign. The first thing, of course, is that Biden, while he is a familiar name, he is also a big question mark this year. And I guess that's because he's new and improved, but he's still a question mark. A book that's out right now, Back to the Front of the Line in the Sandbox. That's an amazing book. It says the alternative to the crazy uncle. I'm not sure who they're talking about, but this book makes some pretty unusual charges about Joe Biden. Did anybody else read that book?
Well, yes, in early draft of book, Biden writes story of meeting Russian president. He sniffed Vladimir's hair and he said, "Your hair smells lovely. What do you put in it?" I'm here all night.
That wasn't the last one. I guess that's what you're saying, huh?
It was new edition of old version of redaction.
Okay, that's one book that's out there. There's also some literature. I was just reading in one of the vegetarian journals I get about Biden having 1 foot in the past. Although in that article they say he has 1 foot in the basement, and that's why it's so hard for him to get around. But when all of these books started coming out, you know what you would have to do if you're Joe Biden, and that is to write your own. Now, I'm not saying that he wrote the book, but there is a Biden book on the shelves right now, and it's sailing up the bestseller list. I think that we've got a picture of it here. Why our buildings are falling over. And actually, in Joe Biden's book, they don't actually say why the buildings are falling over, or if they do say it, I missed it. Did any of y'all see that? That's what I thought.
I believe they're mainly because having a solid foundation is so last century that I believe the root cause of these building failures is the lack of any sort of foundation rooted in reality that we're experiencing this century.
Wow, it sounds like, Bill, that you're channeling your inner architect when you say things like that.
I prefer to channel my inner civil engineer, because my inner civil engineer is paid considerably more than my inner architect. But
and more than I'm.
But your point is well taken. I channel a lot of inner. I am working, as you know, boss. I am working to have fewer personalities to channel, but I'm retaining a few of them, and my inner civil engineer is one I strongly believe I'll keep.
Let me make one thing clear, and that is that Joe didn't actually write this book. I'm sure that's going to come as a big surprise to you. These days, everybody who has a tell-all book like that probably has it ghostwritten, and we have a slide here showing the staff hard at work on Joe's book. And
yes, you know, my book as well is coming soon, and I have ghostwriter. That is in the contract. If I am dead, they sell my body, they make money. That is my ghostwriter. End of story.
Boy, he has a lot of them, doesn't he? That's why he works for me. Anyway, these people, if you put all of their ages together, they're not as old as Joe Biden. And that's some of Joe's problem, even though his staff still believes he's going to squash Trump. The rumors just don't die down that Joe might not even be out there. In fact, the person who's out there speaking as Joe Biden, according to some rumors, might not be Biden at all. Or it might be a robot that was built, you know, to look like Biden, or some person that was just trained to say a bunch of things that Joe would have, you know, mumbled his way through and probably messed up. But one thing that probably could be true is that there are people who are coaching Biden while he is out there performing or speaking or whatever you want to call it. In fact, I saw this posted on one of those Plowed Boy websites the other day, allegedly a picture of one of his assistants coaching him from the sidelines during one of the debates. But I don't think that's what really happened, right, Anna?
Boss, yes. It's my sources have told me it was actually his wife telling him to pick up eggs, fish food, a quart of milk, a stick of butter, a loaf of bread, that sort of thing. It was his shopping list.
We've talked about the Trump campaign and we've talked about the Biden campaign. So let's now talk about voting per se. First thing is that people are voting already, and the FBI is out there looking at people voting. And as far as I can tell, they haven't seen any evidence of this massive fraud that you hear being talked about by certain people whose name is Donald Trump.
And I respect this. I respect this very much. You know, my favorite thing about being Russian is being able to vote in the American election.
Donald Trump is already saying that there are a whole lot of people, aliens, I think is what he means, are crossing the border into Pennsylvania to vote. And I think he said millions of such people crossing into the border to vote. There have been some news reports about it. It's often connected to dermatological problems, and I can't say that I fully understand that. In any case, Trump does have an army of supporters. And we have another slide here that we were undercover at one of these recruitment meetings in Sarasota. A lot of people who wanted to be in the Trump army are just milling around there. I think they're looking for where the refreshment stand is and so forth. But we listened to some of the speakers, and there was a big debate going on about whether or not they should wear uniforms, things of that nature. Why is this important? Well, this is important because if you are out there in a line to vote and you're looking around for Trump supporters, you're probably looking for somebody who looks like they are part of a militia, maybe carrying weapons and maybe harassing people who look like they might be voting for the wrong person. But no, because what's actually going on is that the real Trump army is hidden in public view, or in plain sight, if you want to say it that way. Look at this slide we have. This was taken just the other day, I think. The undercover Trump supporters, part of the militia, are shown with arrows pointing down to them. And you can see they don't seem to have any weapons, do they? No. Well, that is because the people who are working in the secret Trump militia are using something other than AK-47s and so forth. What they have is a new weapon that apparently is some sort of, shall I call it a stink bomb? We have a picture of one of them being tested. It's actually the National Security Agency has a picture of one of them being tested, but
we have
Bill
seen
was
this.
able.
We have seen this. We have seen this uniform. You know, at the recent Rara, he had he moved like police officer, Indian chief, cowboy, and construction worker. So these are the kinds of uniforms we see. But you know, and you were speaking of this silent but deadly weapon. With respect, Mr. Trump is no match for Vladimir Putin.
Okay.
I understand that they were very confused when developing this weapon because they were basing it on World War II German technology. And they misunderstood that the word "fahrt" means to journey, to move forward. And so they developed this. And while masks would actually be a threat, means that he is harming some of his supporters. Also, as we have seen, he's willing to sacrifice, say, a few, maybe 300,000 people for the cause.
And that's because nobody can really stand the smell. I guess it doesn't pass the smell test in more than an allegorical sense. You actually can't stand there where you can't stand your ground when this weapon is released. So there will be cash. Bill, I know you wanted to say something. You have a theory that this weapon is somehow connected to Trump's diet?
Yes, I believe his diet makes him a prodigious source of this odoriferous gas, which also serves as a, we think perhaps it serves as a counteraction to the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere causing global warming. But there's also a possibility that last statement comes directly from the Russian embassy in DC. I don't know if Bud can speak to whether the odoriferous gas is in fact Russian misinformation.
You know, we could probably take this too far. Probably some of our listeners and viewers over the next few days will start to think they smell something funny everywhere they look, you know, when they're in the grocery store or at the water cooler in the office. And so we just got to warn people that from what we know about this weapon, if it is used in your area, there's not going to be any second guessing. You're going to know, right?
I have no comment on this.
Okay, well, I know we've been asking a lot of things that trouble you, because I know you have, well, you told me you have mixed feelings about some of the things you've done. And
thank you for airing my dirty laundry. It gets cleaned twice a year, and this is not my day.
I thought you said you had morning dew and evening dew.
Yes, but the dew and the laundry, these are different processes. You would know if you ever clean your shirt, boss.
Well, I'm more worried about getting something on my tie. See, when I do this, nothing on my tie. So you can't tell me that everything at the Trump store is useless. I mean, I forget which one of you told me that. We've got a picture here. This I think this is also near Sarasota. You see that the Trump people have been really bearing down on Florida recently. It's a pretty important place. It's one of those places where your vote is more important than if you are, you know, in some other place. But anyway, you see that thing coming up out of the water? I don't know what the hell that is, but according to the Office of Satellite Intelligence, which is who got us this picture, that thing is part of the Trump Navy. I don't know anything else about it, and if my investigators know something about it, they haven't told me, except that
Yeah, well,
Bill delivered me this picture, and I still haven't figured it out.
what I've been told about the Trump Navy is, one, again, getting back to uniforms, that there's a strong financial motive for the Trump family to have the sailors in little sailor suits, because they're actually made by Ivanka in China. So there's a nefarious connection. So his main motive for establishing the Navy is to enrich Ivanka because she makes those uniforms in China.
Well,
No, I think that is old Navy. I think Melania put him now in cheap sweaters.
I have to wonder if some of these people who couldn't make it in the Trump army got a second chance to get recruited into the Trump Navy because they were the right size for the uniforms that they had already created. You see what I mean?
And most Trump supporters, you can get more ballast for your submarine, so the submarines sink. Instead of having two normal sized people that you have to pay, you just get one Trump supporter, put them in a Trump support. Now you've got the same amount of weight for half the number of people. So it's quite a financial accomplishment for Trump.
That's terrific. Okay. Trump Army, Trump Navy. You think that's it? Nope. There's also a Trump Air Force. Now, here we are back to birds again. I think these are grackles, but who knows? Who knows? I think they can train anything with feathers and wings that has a song. A lot of these, we don't understand what those grackles, or for that matter, a bluebird or a sparrow, we don't understand what is being said in those songs, okay? But if they've been trained to retweet a message, I don't even know where to go with this thought. Who would they be talking to? You would think that Trump might believe the only way he's going to win this election is to have the entire animal kingdom voting for him. And that's not that. Yes, Hannah.
I said weaponized tweeting does make the most sense, since it has been a hallmark of his past 4 years in office. And
I saw a guy out there the other day with a moral compass. He seemed to be talking to these birds about something.
Is it true, Bud, that you used to try to train acoustic eels, but you've since modernized and you're now training electric eels?
That's what I was trying to get at, yes.
Yes, the resistance from the electric eels is something to be behold.
Okay, couple of points here. We've talked about voting and who you might expect to see at the polls, but some people, instead of voting this year, they are selling their ballots. Other people are buying ballots. We've got that Miami Beach dweller story. I think we have a slide. Several states have already, this is kind of like states need to raise money because they're out of money. So some states are allowing you to buy an extra vote if you want, or you can sell yours to somebody else. That's an extension of our hard times, that people are doing anything and everything to get an extra buck. But we were just talking about cables. Well, we weren't actually, but I am. And one thing that we've also heard is that at some polling stations, people are trying to cut power cables so that they leave the polling precinct in the dark. The idea being, I suppose, that people don't know what they're doing when they vote in the dark, or that that the water cooler goes off because it's electrical or something like, you see what I'm saying? Cutting off the power. And I think what people have done in government here, I'm talking about government workers, in order to protect the polls, they are putting up wiring that is so complicated that nobody can find out what cable to cut if they want to cut the power to the voting precinct. Do you get that? You see?
Yes, and actually, it's they model the power application program and wiring is actually an extension of string theory, which is quite fascinating. So we're finally seeing some benefit of string theory, which of course has been around for many years.
We know there are some problems with drop boxes, and we know some of the drop boxes have been placed in boys' rooms at some junior high schools. What is going on there? Well, apparently you can keep women out of there, and you can probably keep most adults out of there. There are some buildings where you're supposed to drop off your ballots, but some of those buildings are 60 stories high, and it doesn't even say what floor, much less what room you drop the ballots off on. So that's our voting problem. What about...
Also, many of these drop boxes are false. They have been put out by various GOP groups, and they are actually municipal trash can. More than 50% of them have been found to contain Hunter Biden's laptop.
There must be a whole lot of those laptops then.
I do not understand why he has so many.
Well, that's voting. We've talked about that. You know, in the meantime, we've got problems going on. There's a stimulus bill, and Mitch McConnell wants every American to pay about $1,200 to retire that bill. And
yes, you know, sir, the boss, what is the difference between Moscow and reality? Mitch McConnell has connections with Moscow.
I knew that. Some of the same connections look like that picture we just saw of the cable. Anyway, they're hustling me along, and I don't know, but I guess so that Trump's White House will be moving to Amy Coney Island anytime soon. So that's about all the time we have. I wish we had more to talk about the situation, but let me leave you with this. Almost all of this looks to me like one big bad commercial that you don't want to see. And it reminds me of a commercial I see all the time that I can't stand. I don't ever want to see it again, but I'm sure I will. You have probably seen it. Tom Selleck is telling you about a reverse mortgage. He's telling you that it's not his first rodeo. You know what? One of my people, and it's one of these three people here, but I'm not going to give it away, was able to get a copy of a body cam that is from Tom Selleck's first rodeo. And I thought you would probably like to see it, wouldn't you? Well, here's what it looked like.
Oh, nice horsey! Oh, that's my legitimate daughter!
Well, what about, you think you have problems, huh? At least you're still sitting in your chair. Until we can get back together again and bring you up to speed on what's going on everywhere, I want to thank my crack investigators for showing up. I want to thank the producer for letting us do this on live television. And I want to thank all of you for voting if you have or if you're about to. And in the meantime, if you can't vote for me, at least keep your hat on. See you soon.
Let's gas up, let's get out of town. Let's gas up, let's head for the hills. I don't know why, but that's